All right, so I'm glad you all have had such a great day, but we have saved a really fantastic speaker for our last session today. So Natalie Weaver is from Charlotte, North Carolina. She's a wife, mom to 3 kids, artist, and activist. She is the founder of Sophia's Voice and the co-founder of Advocates for Medically Fragile Kids, North Carolina. Her oldest daughter, Sophia, inspired her passion for advocacy. For over a decade, she has advocated for her daughter, who was born with facial, hand, and foot deformities and numerous disabilities. In 2016, Natalie became involved in public advocacy when North Carolina threatened to reduce life-saving services for Sophia and thousands of medically complex kids. Within 6 weeks, Natalie and 2 other moms stopped this from happening. In 2017, Natalie took her advocacy a step further when she became involved in the national fight to protect healthcare in the United States. As Natalie's support grew, she was thrust into the public eye and inundated with hundreds of hateful messages towards her daughter. She soon realized that she needed to advocate for much more than just healthcare, and that she must also fight for fundamental human rights and acceptance. In 2018, Natalie's advocacy grew globally when she took on the social media giant Twitter. She fought to hold them accountable for allowing hateful and discriminatory messages towards her child. She was able to convince Twitter to include disability when reporting hate and discrimination. I don't think you understand what a big deal that is. Natalie continues to share a real and vulnerable glimpse into the life of parenting a profoundly disabled child, to raise awareness, encourage acceptance, and to normalize disabilities and facial deformities. She believes all human beings, especially the most vulnerable among us, deserve dignity and respect. Natalie's been on CNN, The Today Show, and participated in events in Washington, D.C., and it is our pleasure to have her at the conference today.
I am terrified to be myself and share my personal story because I fear judgment, criticism, hate, and cruelty. I didn't go to college. I don't understand policy and politics. I am not an activist or a writer. I don't have the experience, and I am not good enough. I've never been able to give a speech in front of hundreds of people or at a press conference with senators. I don't know how to give an interview on TV or run a nonprofit. And there's no way I'd be able to build a community of over 80,000 people who care about my family and who would fight alongside me to create positive change. There is no way I could run a successful campaign to get a social media giant to change their platform. And I certainly cannot create real change in this world and help others directly while doing it. Nope, that is not me. I have never done any of these things before, so there is no way I could do any of these things now. Besides, I am only one person. If you could hear my thoughts, that's what you'd hear me say to myself right before I took those scary steps to do all of those things and so much more. And in less than 3 years, fear used to control me and stop me in the past, but it no longer does. Now, instead of running from and avoiding fear, I run towards it and embrace it. It has been life-changing. Hi everyone, my name is Natalie Weaver. I am a mom to 3 beautiful kids, a wife, a public speaker, an advocate, and so much more. I am the co-founder of Advocates for Medically Fragile Kids NC, founder of Sophia's Voice, and I work daily to normalize profound disabilities and facial deformities. I do this by sharing with the entire world a personal, unedited, and authentic glimpse into my life. I publicly fight against hate and push for positive change. I encourage acceptance, inclusion, basic human rights for children with disabilities, and fight to protect their health care. I have found myself and my voice, and I am living proof that anyone can make a difference. I am living proof that all of our stories are powerful, important, and can be the catalyst for meaningful and positive change. 3 years ago today, I was the opposite of who I am today. I was private, insecure, and I avoided fear and allowed it to stop me at every single turn. It wasn't in my wildest dreams or in my plans to become a public advocate and to do all the things that I have done. So how did this happen? How did I get from there to here? How did I become the person I am today who feels comfortable being in front of a camera, giving interviews, speeches, fiercely fighting for change, and living life publicly? Well, it's pretty simple. I took one small step to get involved. Then I took another step, and then I took more steps that turned into even bigger steps. I realized that facing my fears wouldn't kill me, and here I am today. I'll get back to what that first small step was, but first let me share more about my inspiration and the reason I became an advocate and have a story to share in the first place. I wasn't going to mention this, but I think it's really important. We've made the decision to transition my daughter Sophia from medical care with the support of hospice. So I might be a little more emotional when I'm speaking of her, so please bear with me. There is one person that gave me the strength and the passion to overcome all of my fears and insecurities. And that person is the main reason I have been able to build a large community around me to help create significant change. My inspiration, passion, and strength come from my firstborn child. Her name is Sophia, also known around the world as Sweet Sophia. I found out at 34 weeks pregnant during an ultrasound that Sophia would be born with severe facial, hand, and foot deformities, and that she might not survive birth. We had 4 weeks to carry this heavy weight and try to prepare ourselves for what was to come, but there was no preparing for the unknown. This was the first time in my life that I was unable to run from my fear. I wasn't sure that I would be strong enough to handle it. I thought my life was ending when I got the news about Sophia, but I was wrong, so very wrong. My life wasn't ending, it was just beginning. October 20th, 2008, Sophia was born at 12:35 p.m. It was a terrifying experience, and I only got to see her for 30 seconds before they whisked her off to test her. I didn't see Sophia until later that night in the NICU, and when I held her for the first time, I began to sob. The nurse held both of us tight as I released the pain and fear I carried for 4 weeks. I knew in that moment that the immediate love I had for my child would give me the strength to be the mom that she needed me to be. And I knew I would do whatever it takes to care for my child and fight for her life. I found my hidden strength in Sophia. Sophia is 10 years old now, and she is the strongest person I know. She is profoundly disabled, has Rett syndrome, epilepsy, tremors, type 1 diabetes, a rare immune deficiency, and many other issues. She's had 29 surgery and needs around-the-clock care. She is unable to walk, talk, and do things for herself, but what stands out the most is her gentle, fun-loving personality and expressive eyes. She is full of attitude, loves to cuddle, and she is the queen of our household. She took my title long ago. Sophia has the most beautiful soul, an infectious laugh, and the magical ability to wash away all pain and fear just by being in her presence. She's had the most profound effect on my life, and I give her full credit for my transformation. She's a powerful little girl. Sophia is the reason I found my voice and why I no longer fear being my real and unapologetic self. She has taught me to push forward and face my fears, which is how I became a strong and fierce advocate. I learned the importance of being an advocate for my child pretty quickly. It didn't take long to realize that doctors don't have all the answers and that no one knows her as I do. There is no one else in the world like Sophia, so it is up to me to educate others about her. Being Sophia's advocate is one of the most important jobs I have, next to being her mom. Quite frankly, Sophia wouldn't be alive today if it weren't for the way I advocate for her life. I had to learn to let go of my insecurities and self-doubt to stand up for my child and be her advocate. When I advocate for her, I don't take no for an answer, and I always go into any fight knowing that she will get what she needs. In the early years, these moments of advocating and fighting back would give me a surge of energy. I felt bold, strong, and powerful. I wasn't my insecure, anxious, people-pleasing self. It was in those moments that I felt like my real self. I'd always say, man, I wish I could be like this in my everyday life, but I wasn't ready for that, not yet. I reserved advocate mama for Sophia only and the doctors, nurses, and insurance companies who dared deny her what she needed. I was confident and bold to get Sophia's medical needs met, but when it came to taking her out into society, I struggled. We used to take her out everywhere before we found out about her immune deficiency. The reactions were heartbreaking and destroyed me. People would stare, whisper, scream, and run away laughing. They'd ask ignorant and rude questions, and kids were scared of her. It was a pain that brought me to my knees and would make me feel depressed for weeks. It would take so much strength and energy to pull myself out of it, but time and time again, we experienced worse. I couldn't take it anymore, so I chose to stay private. I felt ashamed that I wasn't strong enough. I allowed fear to rule me for 7 years. Then, one day, I chose to face my fear. I took that tiny little life-changing step that I mentioned earlier. I was so scared to take that step, but I did it anyway, and that's how I became an unexpected public advocate and found more of my hidden strengths. In April 2016, my phone rang, and it was my daughter's CAP-C case manager. She informed me that Sophia's and thousands of other kids on the CAP-C program were going to have their Medicaid services cut by up to 70%. The decision was already made, and this was happening. I'm pretty sure the color drained from my face. I began to panic, but Advocate Mama took over, as she always did. And I told her I'd fight this and wouldn't allow this to happen. Sophia will not lose her services. My entire family would be impacted by this change, not to mention put Sophia's life at risk. I was given a Facebook page that was set up to fight back against these changes. I remember going to the page and trying to make sense of what I was reading. I kept seeing posts from Jenny and Elaine. They were very knowledgeable. Immediately, I thought I wouldn't be able to help because I didn't know as much. I didn't know anything about contacting legislators or policy, so I began to feel intimidated. I felt that fear and self-doubt begin to rise, but I ignored it this time. I looked through the posts, and one caught my eye. It said, "We need media attention on this. Who's willing to share their story?" I mean, of all things to volunteer for, why would I respond to the media post? A person who has hidden away from the cruelty for over 7 years. For the first time, I thought outside of fighting for just Sophia, and I thought of the thousands of other kids and families who'd be negatively impacted by this change. This took my level of passion, courage, and strength to heights it had never been before. Suddenly, my pain and fear took a back seat. I told myself that if no one else comes forward to do it, then I'll do it. I waited and hoped someone else would do it. No one did, so 1 month later, I gave my first TV interview. I was nervous, sweaty, panicky, and I tried to come up with a dozen reasons why I had to cancel the interview. I did it anyway, and after the interview aired, I had uncovered another hidden strength. I can give a TV interview. After that, several more families gave interviews. We all fought hard, and within 6 weeks, we stopped the changes from occurring. You really don't know what you are capable of until you push fear aside and try. Advocates for Medically Fragile Kids NC was officially formed into a nonprofit co-founded by Jenny, Elaine, and me. Before I move on, I want to acknowledge my amazing partners and co-founders who are here today, sitting up here. They probably don't want to stand up. They continue to do the work on the state level to ensure that thousands of medically complex kids in North Carolina are represented and protected from harmful changes. If it weren't for the work they continue to do on the state level, then I never would have been able to take on the national healthcare fight and so much more. So thank you both. You mean so much to me. So, once this state level storm passed, a new and much larger storm emerged. The never-ending national healthcare fight. I didn't realize what was about to come, but I remember thinking that I had to get involved because no one else was highlighting the impact this would have on medically complex kids. I took the valuable lessons I learned from the state fight to help me make an impact on the national fight. I learned the incredible power of social media and that public pressure equals fast results. I also remembered how intimidated I felt because I didn't understand complex policy. So I made sure to simplify all the information so others would understand and feel confident enough to join the fight. People really want to help, but they don't always have the time to learn and do the research. So I always included simple calls to actions and spelled every single thing out for them. I told them what to say, what to expect, and how to do it. I kept the messages short and straight to the point because most people won't read beyond 1 or 2 paragraphs or watch videos beyond 2 minutes. I learned that if you want the opportunity to meet with elected officials, you have to be kind and respectful. But there are also times you have to decide to be direct and bold to move them to action, which is what I prefer. I gathered stories from dozens of other families and shared them online and with our senators. I used content from previous interviews and learned how to create my own content and videos, which is very important for social media. I use social media to connect with celebrity activists because I realized the power of celebrity and that people would more likely care and listen to them. Then I found large organizations and leaders in healthcare who had access to a broader audience. I made sure all of them knew my story, and one by one they began connecting with me and sharing my story. More and more people started to care about my story and what I had to say, which inspired them to join my fight. Then, to my surprise, I was asked to speak at a press conference on Capitol Hill with U.S. senators. I said yes and immediately began to panic. Fear and self-doubt began to rise. I can't write a speech. I have never given a speech. I don't know if I can do this, but I know I have to do this. I had 2 days to write and rehearse my speech. I faced my fears once again and flew to DC by myself. After an unexpected meeting with my senator, I went to the Capitol building for the press conference. We entered the room, and it was filled with dozens of people, several TV cameras, reporters, and photographers. They called my name, and I stepped up to the podium. I gave my very first speech with 5 U.S. senators standing behind me. I felt calm and comfortable. I couldn't believe I did it. I uncovered another hidden strength. I can write and give a speech. You really don't know what you are capable of until you push fear aside and try. The next day, Now This Media Group picked up my speech and it went viral. From there, I gave more speeches in front of more people. I was flown to Hollywood to speak on a panel with celebrities. I gave tons of interviews. More families began to share their stories, and my followers on social media started to grow drastically, and so did my ability to influence others. With all this new media attention came great support and opportunities, but with the good comes the bad. I received an increase in hate, cruelty, and even death threats against my child and me. It was a difficult time, and at this point, I realized that my fight needed to expand beyond healthcare. My mission began to evolve into a message about acceptance and normalizing facial deformities and profound disabilities. I continued to share our story and started giving an intimate glimpse into our lives, the good, bad, happy, sad. I began to open up more and share my experiences of hate so people would know that this type of hatred still exists. It became my primary mission to change the world so that children like mine will one day be accepted in society. This angered many people who felt I should hide away and that my child doesn't deserve basic human rights, but instead deserves to die. I received daily messages to kill my child and vile comments about her looks. In December 2017, I received a particularly hateful message from someone who stole my daughter's image to promote eugenics. I reported him, and Twitter didn't find this in violation. I couldn't believe that this type of hate speech was being allowed. So I called on my followers to help and spoke to several news reporters. I never expected that story to go viral. And when I say viral this time, I mean throughout the entire world and for months and months. I had hundreds of people contacting me every day from around the world. Tens of thousands of people joined my mission to create a more accepting world. My fight to get that tweet removed was won, but that wasn't enough. This wasn't just about my child and me. It was about protecting others and holding people accountable. During this time, my friend and fellow activist Julie Ross made me aware that Twitter didn't even have a place to report hate speech toward the disability community. So naturally, I went to work and began a campaign to get Twitter to include disability in their reporting tool. I decided that I wasn't going to stop until there was a proper place to report this type of hate speech so that violations could be found. My campaign for this change went viral, and I gave tons of interviews and had dozens of stories written about me during this time. Many of the stories were written without anyone ever speaking to me. Stories were written based on my social media post. My life was on display and sensationalized. Lies were told to fit political and divisive agendas, and I had zero say or control over what was happening. It was an overwhelming and stressful time. My anxiety grew and my panic attacks became very familiar, but I pushed ahead. I fought through it, and I used that time and attention to continue to pressure Twitter. And 4 months later, Twitter reached out to me and announced that they included disability on their reporting tool. They still have a long way to go, but it's a start. I learned a lot during this particular fight. I learned that I can't fight every battle and that I have to choose them wisely. I realized that working almost every day from 5 a.m. until midnight isn't healthy, and that balance is crucial. One of the most important lessons I learned is that social media and public pressure are one of the most powerful tools in creating change, especially if you build a large community around you to support and fight alongside you. As my story made it around the world, more and more people began reaching out to me asking for my help with various medical-related needs. I realized that having a large community meant I could raise money quickly. So amid all this viral chaos, I decided to create a nonprofit called Sophia's Voice so I could help people with disabilities and caregivers directly. My organization was created in honor of Sophia. The logo is her actual heartbeat, and the name is to remind others that even though Sophia cannot speak, she has a powerful voice and impact. Out of all the work I've done in the last 3 years, this is what I'm most proud of. I found myself and passion for helping others, and Sophia's legacy will live on forever. I think about what life would have been had I not faced my fears and taken that first small step. I don't regret any of the choices I've made, but I'll be honest, I still think about quitting and hiding when fear, anxiety, and self-doubt rise. Then I'm reminded of the many lives that have been impacted by Sophia and my advocacy. I think of the people who tell me that I made them feel less alone, or the people that gained the courage to leave their homes for the first time in years. I think of the parents and classrooms that are teaching their children about Sweet Sophia, and I think of all the people I've been able to help through Sophia's Voice. All of this happened because I decided to take one small step to face my fears, get involved, and share my story. Amazing and unimaginable change can occur when we face our fears, uncover hidden strengths, and speak our truth. Your story is your power. It is your strength, and no one can tell it but you. Our stories have the power to create meaningful and profound changes in ourselves, others, and beyond. You don't know what you are capable of until you push fear aside and try. If I can do it, so can you. Thank you. Very quickly, you can find me very easily online. I'm on all social media. So just type in my name, look for me. If anyone needs anything, advice, assistance, guidance, whatever it is, find me, send me a private message. I live to help others, so please don't be shy and please reach out. Thank you.
Thank you, Natalie, and thank you, Sophia. A lot of parents here see and experience, maybe not quite the same way you do, but those same sentiments and those same feelings. And maybe we need to be reminded sometimes, and appreciate all that you said and what you brought with us today, and we welcome you and your family anytime. We love having you with us.